Good afternoon, everyone. The International Parking Mobility Institute presents today's Learning Lab, Parking Masterclass, a new tech transforming campus mobility at the Ohio State University, presented by Spot. My name is Kenny, and I'll be assisting Mark Frumar, VP of Sales at Spot, and moderating today's Learning Lab. As a reminder, today's presentation is being recorded. We will make the recording available online, and we'll post it to IPMI's YouTube channel within a few days. Before we start, I'd like to go over a few quick housekeeping rules. This Learning Lab is in webinar format. Everybody's mic and camera is muted. If you have any questions, please drop them in chat or the Q&A button, and we will get to them as we can during the webinar. Now I'm going to turn the audience over to Mark from Spot. Mark, it's all yours.
All right, thank you very much, Kenny, and what an introduction. We really appreciate everybody and their time sticking, holding on. We know that, obviously it's a long way to get started, but we really appreciate you turning out. We're really excited to see the amount of people that have. As Kenny mentioned, my name is Mark Frumar. I am the Vice President of Sales at Spot Parking. And at Spot, our focus is to help cities and universities to digitally transform parking. And that's really going to be the focus for today's session. So today I'm privileged to be joined by Sarah Blouch and Bob Murray of Campus Park. Campus Park is the private parking administrator at the Ohio State University. And I'll go ahead and give them a quick introduction now. So Sarah is the Chief Executive Officer at Campus Park. Sarah brings over 40 years of mobility industry experience, where 18 of those were spent at Ohio State, actually serving as the Executive Director of Transportation, before she then moved across to join Campus Park when it was founded in 2012. Sarah's got a lot of experience, a huge amount of background experience in managing parking logistics on campus and in successfully rolling out technology through collaborations with partners such as Spot. So hi, Sarah, thanks for joining us. And also with us today is Bob Murray. Bob is the Chief Technology Officer at Campus Park. And Bob brings over 20 years of experience in analyzing business needs and implementing data-led strategies. So Bob's been the leading force in developing the new Shore Park platform with Spot. And that's something that's had great success in improving the experience for drivers to campus, but also building insight into how parking is actually being used on campus. So we've got the perfect panel here with you today. And we're going to jump in a moment. Firstly, as Kenny mentioned, at any point throughout the presentation, please feel free to submit your questions. If you put them in the chat box, even if we can't get to it, time for a Q&A at the end, we'll make sure that we get to all of those questions subsequent to the meeting. So the topic that we're going to discuss today is the digitization of parking on campus and how it's actually transforming the parking experience at the Ohio State campus in Columbus. Before we get started, though, we do have a couple of quick poll questions for the audience. I'll jump over. You should see a poll pop up in a moment. We just wanted to understand, firstly, who are the crowd that have joined us today? You should see a pop-up come up with options A through D. And if you can please answer whether you represent a university, a city, a parking organization, or another type of entity. Just to save a little bit on time, Kenny, maybe we'll just give another, say, 15 or 20 seconds.
Sorry, I thought you wanted to really save on time. I ended it, so I will share the results.
That's okay, just share those results. There you go. So as expected, we do have a large proportion of universities, but great to see we also have a couple of cities and some other parking organizations as well. So on to the next question. And I think this is a good lead into what we're talking about is we're interested to know what is the single biggest parking management challenge facing you at the moment. We've put up several of the more common ones there, or it might be something entirely different. Okay, Kenny, I think we can close that one as well. Well, that's really interesting to see. We've actually got almost an even split across the board. So thank you, everybody, for your responses. As we jump over, we wanted to share with you some of the key challenges that we've begun to see through all of our meetings with universities. And we've met with almost 100 in the last 12 months. From our meetings, what we've understood is that there's no doubt that parking is still one of the most frustrating and confusing problems that afflicts US universities. So listed out here are just some of the key challenges that we've found are facing administrators that are running parking on campus. The first one is confusion. So I'm sure that many of you are still operating under a hybrid model where you have students both on campus as well as joining classes from home. But post-COVID, it's predicted that campuses are going to see an increased number of single occupant vehicles returning to campus. Now, with those are new rules, there's lot closures, lots of universities are making updates to parking permit entitlements, and that means that parking confusion is expected to be at an all-time high. And the frustration that comes with spending a long time trying to find a parking spot has led to parking actually being one of the most complained about aspects of modern campus life. Number two is an inefficient use of parking spaces, and this is one that we hear almost across the board. We know that people are creatures of habit. Students and faculty tend to get into a rhythm of when and where they can park. And we've found by surveying students that up to about 39% of them, of drivers that are actually coming to campus, they tend to park in the same place every single time. Now, it's typically because they're familiar areas, but what we've understood is that they're not necessarily the best place for them to park. So a recurring theme that we see is that the most popular lots and garages at universities tend to quickly hit 100% capacity at peak times. Drivers will then come and complain to the university that they can't find parking, even though there are better parking options than the one that they were heading for, and they would happily use them if only they realized they actually existed. Now, moving over to the administration side, the third one is that technology solutions are typically disjointed and they don't work together in harmony. Now, most universities have vendors for parking needs. I'm sure you all have things for mobile payment, enforcement, things like compliance and occupancy monitoring. And unfortunately, they seem to almost be operating as a silo. And what that means is that parking managers spend way too long going in to actually break down and understand the information that they need to extract. And that's especially so at reporting time from what we hear. Fourth is that administrators lack insight into the actual utilization of their parking assets. So many of the universities that we've spoken with, they're unsure whether the parking allocations on campus are actually optimized to best serve the daily visitors to campus. And when we start talking about new buildings, there's billions of dollars of planning decisions that are being made without always understanding the impact that that's going to have on the parking network itself. So that's both from an economic standpoint, but also how is that going to impact the drivers that typically park in those locations that are now going to be built upon? And then finally, the last key challenge is really having uncertainty into how to take the first step towards your future vision for parking and transportation on campus. Universities, you're well aware of the issues that plague parking and mobility on your own campuses, but what is often unclear is how to take that first step towards a solution. And again, that's really the key of what we're discussing today. So what is the first step towards addressing these issues? Well, today we're going to talk about the concept of digitizing parking on campus. It is a modern concept. It's probably one that you're perhaps not all familiar with, but it's one that can easily and inexpensively begin to help solve, some of those challenges that I've just mentioned. And when I talk about digitizing parking, what I'm really talking about is it's establishing a digital replica of parking for every individual space on your campus, whether that be a surface lot, a multi-level garage, or even for on-street parking spaces as well. So we'll take all of those spaces, we identify the exact geolocation of each, and then allocate the parking rules to each, as well as the entitlements, the parking entitlements by time of day to each of those spaces. So effectively what we're establishing is a digital inventory of all of your parking assets. And it's one that can then provide you with an entirely new suite of capabilities that have not previously been available up until now. Now, I know it sounds like a long and laborious process, but thanks to the wonders of modern technology, it can actually be completed in a few short months. And we know that so many universities have already done a GIS data survey of parking on campus, and that can be leveraged to actually speed the process up even further. So let's talk about some of the great out-of-the-box capabilities that this can provide then. There's both for the customers looking to find a space, the drivers, but also for the administrators that are seeking to make the process as easy as possible for those drivers. Well, first, you can immediately provide drivers with an interactive parking finder, and anyone coming to campus can open it on their cell phone or their desktop or any device they have. And in seconds, they're able to see the best place for them to park, and it's personalized to their permit entitlements. Not just that, but they can enter their destination and also see exactly not only the best place to park, but the parking rules at the time of their visit everywhere around their destination. And you'll also see in a moment that by connecting occupancy tracking technology, all of the different forms that exist, drivers can then also see live occupancy of the most popular garages and lots. So that becomes really important because it helps them to decide where is the best place for me to park before they actually begin their journey. By leveraging historical data, we can also provide future predicted occupancy at a time that they set in the future. Now, for the administrators, there's a great help for all you guys. It also offers a direct line of communication to drivers so that you can easily pre-plan and update drivers on things like closures and changes. We see a lot of closures due to construction, some from COVID, but also you can update them on large events such as big game days that happen on Saturdays. It also offers a platform to help centralize relevant information. So you can take all of your existing solutions and pull the relevant data that you might like to display to drivers into a single interface. Examples might be pay by phone details, upcoming event parking details, and options so that they can purchase parking, alternative transportation methods, and really anything that your heart desires. So what that means is you can tell any driver coming to campus, whether they come daily or have never been before, to check spot for up-to-the-minute details on parking conditions, no matter what the time is or event that's on that day. And then, look, the key to helping administrators is it also allows for planning, managing, and reporting on your parking assets from one single dashboard. And that's something that we've heard so many universities say that's what they want, one single dashboard to bring all of their reporting details together. And that's one of the areas that we'll be discussing with Sarah and Bob today. So let's jump over and invite Sarah and Bob of Campus Park in to learn about how they have partnered with Spot to implement this concept on campus. And you can see here just a quick example of the scale of the operation on campus at Columbus. So as we move the focus over to Campus Park now, Sarah, can I invite you, if you can hear me okay, if you could please provide us with an introduction to Campus Park and who you are and how you found your way to becoming the CEO at Campus Park, and maybe what it's like to manage parking for such a large and well-known university like Ohio State.
I'd be glad to, Mark. I call myself an accidental CEO. This is never something that I had planned for my career, but I was happily managing parking at The Ohio State University. I came in '95 with a charge of merging the parking and the transit. And then back in 2012, they came up with the idea of monetizing that asset. So I had the difficult challenge of having to separate transportation and parking back out again. But really, Campus Park is an investment for primarily pension funds. So for all of the retired folks that invest their money, this is just one of those investments, and they're looking for something that's very stable and long-term and without aggressive growth. So I like the values of the shareholders, the QIC group that was going to be managing, kind of overseeing this whole asset. And when they asked me to come over, I thought it would be an interesting approach. And it's really not dramatically different. We just look at things like an investment. And so Campus Park is a special purpose vehicle formed solely to manage the Ohio State University parking system. And our relationship changes slightly. I have to say, it's really weird. One day to reporting to an individual to then moving over to what I call the dark side. And that person is now my peer. It took me a little while to adjust to that, but we have a very good working relationship. My partner in crime, I always called her with transportation and parking, Beth Snoke, is now managing the concession on the university side, which is great. She understands it. We work very well together. And so together we're just trying to figure out how to make process for a 50-year agreement. Universities are large and Ohio State happens to be very, very vast, as well as each department kind of tends to do their own thing. So trying to herd the cats within the university is Beth's job to try to help us. And then trying to implement process from our end is really one of our key focuses, as well as obviously operating parking and managing risk.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. And I think the collaboration, the interaction between yourselves and the university is something that we'd like to touch on a little bit later. But just backing up for a moment, we know that a lot of the universities on the call keeping a close interest in the operations of Campus Park due to your uniqueness as a privately owned parking administration, as you mentioned. So, from the work that we've done together, we know that you guys are very eager to innovate through technology. Realizing your university background, I'm just interested, can you tell us a little bit about how that's actually shaped the vision for what you're doing with Campus Park?
Yeah, I think universities all over are always looking for ways to experiment and try new things. And obviously we're no different. I would say that the one advantage that we have now, the biggest concern I hear from many of my colleagues under university as well, we have to get our IT department, the university's IT department on board. They may or may not have this as a priority. It takes a long time. Bob is our IT department. And so when we decide that this is on our roadmap for strategy and we need to make something happen, we turned it over to Bob to kind of forge through and make sure he picks the right entity. So we want very much, we know people do not come to the Ohio State University to park. They come here for a whole lot of other things. So we are an infrastructure item. We're in the background. As unglamorous as it sounds, but I know in the industry we tend to use this a lot. Parking should be a non-event. It should not be it's the first and last thing everyone does, but it should not make or break your visit to the university. So we're looking hard to make it easy and seamless. And this is a large campus and it's very complicated. And it doesn't help when Google Maps sends everybody to the front door of the building, which doesn't happen to be where the parking is located. And they need to know where to go. And so along with all the rules that we have, we've rebranded the spot. You guys have been allowed us to make it Shore Park is what our internal label is for it. And so it helps people find parking and become more certain.
Great. Thanks, Sarah. And I think that's something that a lot of universities see is that people are trying to find the buildings or the places to park via Google Maps, and it's always taking them to the wrong end almost every time, isn't it? So as we jump over into the digitization of parking on your campus, Bob, I might invite you to answer this one. I remember when we first met, you were looking to start building a detailed insight into parking data on campus. Data itself was a massive focus for you. So can you explain to us why you identified building a digital platform of campus, as Sarah mentioned, it's now known as Shore Park, as the best way forward for you guys specifically?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Mark. I really feel that, first, having data is important in order to protect the investment that Sarah talked about. So we're looking for that steady growth, right? And so as much as we can continue to ensure that that's the case, even in times like having COVID and having difficulties during that time frame with the parking, I really do feel that technology plays a big role. And so the entire organization is data focused. So we make decisions based on data. And having our parking digitized really gave us the ability to look at an easy look at the system, at the ecosystem. One of the things I really like about the system is that it doesn't just tell you where you can park now. You can pick the time of your arrival, and it'll tell you the parking rules at that time. And so with us, we have events. I think you saw we have 200 to 300 events. And being able to put the parking rules around that event in then allows the users to come through and say, I usually park there on Tuesday night, but the chess club at the Ohio Union is now using that lot, and I now have to go find other parking. And we can also alert you about that. So there was a lot there that I thought, wow, this is really cool. You can't send alerts through a PDF. So that was one of the things that was really key to me. The other key really for me, which isn't technology focused at all, I have a business solutions in my title as well. So what that means is I get to run the process of understanding problems and dreaming up solutions, and then I get to hand them off to me to then figure out how we get to put those through. So it really is the equivalent of the chief cook and bottle washer here, and I enjoy it. But back to that is that being able to make parking that non-event, helping the customer out is a key piece of what I want to do. So I don't just want to do technology. I want to make sure that it's easier. My background, I was a medic for 9 years, and we have a big medical campus, and so I have a soft spot for them. My father is a teacher, my brother is a teacher, and I have a soft spot for that. So when I look at this area that I'm in, and I think about the people that are in my life, and I just extend that out to the 100,000 parkers we see a day, I want to make that a non-event. And Spot was one of the ways that we were able to easily tell them. So besides me getting the data I can use to make better decisioning, we were also able to give the customer better insight. And so those were the real two key pieces for me.
That's a great answer, Bob. Thank you for that. I might direct it back to you, Sarah. As I mentioned earlier, building this platform on your campus, I said that it allows to open up an entirely new range of capabilities. So I just wanted to find out, what are some of the benefits that Campus Park is seeing from having what is a digitized campus now? What's the potential you see for the use of the solution?
Well, there are many, Mark, and I'm not sure I can enumerate them all, but I have to say the one that I think packs a powerful punch is, we watch our Google reviews. We're not exactly pleased with the number of stars we have or don't have, as the case may be, but we watch the concerns. And many of them for many, many years have been parking tickets. I like to consider parking tickets optional, but, generally people get them because they don't understand the rules. And I can't. We have extremely complex rules, and they change at different hours of the day on different days for different things. And I think the number one value metric I think we can use to show that this is working is the complaints about parking tickets are no longer really rolling in like, I didn't know I got a ticket. It's allowed us to take all these complex rules and very quickly and easily show people, can I or can't I park? That's really all they want to know. They don't really care what the rules are, as long as they think they can use it. And so I'm really thrilled that right now, when you look at the complaints, and they're still coming, obviously they moved on to complaining about the rules now, which is actually something the university owns and takes care of. But we no longer have to try to figure out how to put all these wacky rules on one parking sign that people will stop and read. It's very visual, it's very easy, and I actually use it a lot myself. If I'm not sure exactly when something changes, when I'm giving some advice, I can go in really quickly and pick an area and type a time of day, and it'll tell me who can and who can't park there.
Right, excellent. And I think that's a great segue into our next slide, which is talking about elevating the customer experience. Data aside, this was the vital aspect of what you guys were looking for from a solution when we first spoke. So listed here are just some of the ways that we know that you've been using SurePark in order to do so. Could you provide us, just with a quick insight in how SurePark is actually improving the experience for the customers themselves, the drivers?
Well, it's helping those that are coming to park. Obviously, they can go in. We're pushing out the website and the link to SurePark so that they can get that as they're coming to events. But it helps faculty and staff with the myriad of permits that we have understand. But I think the other thing is it's really easy in the background for the staff to be able to update things. Events happen on a campus all the time. And often they might start as, well, we're just having an event, there's no change. And then suddenly that becomes, oh, well, we really need you to reserve this parking lot. And so it could quickly go out of service. And we can make those changes in real time and get that information out to the customer. So again, it's all about getting to campus. One of the biggest fears people have coming to OSU, I think, is often, oh my God, where am I going to park? During non-COVID times, things are really very congested. Coming to the medical center is congested even during COVID. I mean, it's that place is hopping. And so finding places where they can put their car and they know they'll be safe, they won't be getting ticketed or towed is really, I can't emphasize how hard that is. how much that is important to customers coming, even if it's faculty, staff, students coming for their class or work schedule. That's just not the thing they want to have to worry about on a given day.
And if I could just add to that, Mark, if you don't mind, if you look at the myriad of colors that we have that define what type of spaces we have and all, right, it's confusing. And so, one of the things we implemented was being able to log into the website, and through that, you've logged into Shore Park, and we're able to understand what permit you have, and then is able to give you a personalized experience that says you are allowed to park here or not allowed to park here. So you don't necessarily have to understand that, oh, I'm allowed to park in a C space after 4 o'clock on weekdays. You can now just log in, and we automatically get your permit through an interface with our permitting system. So I think that was just another big plus, because it really is confusing. And the other piece is, is really around the PDF, right? So we have parking rules that change at times. So, we would have different PDFs, and the PDFs would still just be the colors. So you still had to understand, what color am I allowed to use? Now you also have to understand, what PDF do I have to use, right? So, and you can just see, it's just very complex. And so just taking that out of the equation, I just log in, I look right away, I have a quick yes, no, can I park here based on my credentials? And then as time changes or I change the time, I see that as well. It has just been a great customer experience.
Agreed.
Yeah, thanks, Bob. And my next question was going to be, from reviewing the analytics behind Shore Park, we're seeing that up to about 40,000 people are using it per month, and that's even throughout the time of COVID. So I'm just curious as to why do you think the user take-up has been so enthusiastic? Is it based on what you just mentioned?
It works. It's easy and it works. And I think those are the two criteria non-technical people like myself have for using some kind of a digital application of any kind. And you can get to it from our website, so you don't have to download a specific app.
Well, that's great. I mean, just to see so many people using it is exactly what we were hoping for. And we can only expect that it's going to continue to increase as more students come back to campus. But Sarah, aside from the customer benefits, we know that there's a whole lot of value that's being provided on the administrative side. So we can see some examples that are pictured here. Up the top, you've got the customer service team using Shore Park at front of house to guide people as to which is the best permit for them to select. And then down the bottom, we've got a team that's actually collaborating to plan event parking as well. So, aside from the customer benefits, what are some of the impacts that Shore Park is having on your administrative team? And what are some of the benefits that you're seeing them have in their daily operation?
There's many. It allows our customers to self-help. So that immediately cuts down on calls to the call center saying, I don't know where I need to go. Where do I need to park? So, and also, our staff are not always able to get out and about all over campus, and things can change. So it also lets the staff be able to inform the customer with accurate information on what is legal and what isn't at this moment in time. And then we've been also able to send the link to the Shore Park application to departments, who then send it on to their guests, so that when their guests are coming, they know where to go. So it eliminates a lot of the PDFs, as Bob mentioned, of long, complicated, here's where you need to go, here's where you need to turn, this is the place you need to park. So it really has helped a lot with helping the university guests and the university staff help their people, as well as cutting down on some of the traffic coming into our customer service office.
Yeah, and if I could, again, a key piece on that to me is, we talked about if you log in, then you can see what's right for you based on your credentials. You also have a what if analysis. So you could say, well, what if I had this permit? Then when can I park and where? And what if I had this permit? So the customer is able to do that self-service, and again, easily visualized in the application. So I think, again, as Sarah said, it's just kind of building on reducing our customer service help. And then I can't talk enough about it, maybe because it was a surprise to me, that our customer service people get to use it all the time. They love it. They think it's great, right? As Sarah said, they can't always get out. And so, for me, that was a very happy side effect.
Mm-hmm.
Great. So you'd say it is improving your interaction with the university, as we mentioned before.
Yeah, absolutely. And realize that, again, we're a concession with the university, so we have this contract that we all work together on. But everybody that we talk to on the university side is a parking customer, right? Mm-hmm. So the more that they get to use this, they get to see this, we take stress out of their life as well. So when we're coming to them to talk money, at least they didn't stress out on their parking, right? So.
Right. Well, look, that's great. I know we're focusing on the time and making sure that we get through it. So we might just jump straight over into the parking data itself next. First, we've got a very quick polling question, one more for the audience, because we just wanted to know, what are some of the types of occupancy tracking technology that you've actually deployed, whether it's on your campus or in your area already? We know that occupancy tracking technology is something that almost every university that we speak to is either looking at or has recently implemented some form of. Okay, Kenny, I think we can show the results. There you go. So similar to you guys, Bob, we can see that a lot of universities have rolled out actually multiple different forms of occupancy tracking. So let's jump across and show some of the ones that you're using at Campus Park and on the Ohio State campus. So shown here are multiple types of occupancy technology. You know, each of them are all being displayed in different ways within Shore Park through our connection. You know, so we've got basic loop counters that show percentage of capacity on the left there. As you move over to fixed LPR cameras, that's a more personalized display where we can actually show the availability of the lot for each permit type. And then as we move over to bay by bay monitoring, we can actually start to show real-time availability for each individual bay, whether that's in a garage or in a surface lot. So Bob, I just wanted to ask, I mean, you've been very direct with us the whole time that we need to be open and collaborative with the other technology partners that Campus Park already work with. So why do you think that's so important for you?
Well, just like you're saying, Mark, it's that there's this disparate technologies. And so I do have gates, I have loops, you talked about it, I have all of it. So on the multiple, I want to do like multiple click, right? So, and that just makes it difficult. You have to be able to give it to the consumer in one spot. And so I can't ask them to go to 3 different places to try to understand occupancy based on where they're parking today. And that goes for not just occupancy, it goes for a lot of things that we want to show our consumer, right? We want them to have one central place to go. And so being able to integrate into, it's a basic concept, it's occupancy, but every vendor does it a little different. So being able to do that translation was a big help for us. And I think that, even in then working with Spot, you have to have a partnership to make sure that the solution is going to fit your problem, but you also don't want to customize that solution so much that you're a one-off. So it's really working 2 ways and saying, what is my problem set, and then working together based on the software and the software architecture and the problem that we're facing and coming up with that right solution so that we're not, again, becoming a one-off all of a sudden that's no longer supportable. Yeah, I can't emphasize enough that ability. And then also for us, the nice side effect again then is that all of the reporting on occupancy is coming out of one spot. So I don't have to go look into my 4 different places where I'm getting it originating from and then try to do that comparison. I can do it in one place, and we've used it already to see where we've had underutilized parking based on occupancy, and what we see is full, and we think there's pent-up demand, and have been able to actually switch spaces to achieve that movement of the parkers from one area to another. So, and you can see our system. You've already seen the stats of how big we are. You just can't do that in your head. You need to have that nice visualization to be able to see it combined and next to each other.
Right, that's a great answer. And going back to what we were talking about before in terms of the customer experience, so where do you see the value from these integrations with your occupancy tracking technologies? How is that actually lifting the customer experience itself?
Well, yeah, again, right, it's being able to see it in one place. And so if I have a garage that's using gate up downs right next to a flat lot that's using LPR technology, and I want to see which one I can park in today, then going to 2 different places just doesn't make any sense. And so being able to see this, with the digitization of the campus, what we've also been able to do through trial with Spot is do a really cool algorithm to help predict where the spots are actually being taken. We have several lots that are multi-use spots, and we have these rules that allow, if you look in the middle diagram, you see the reds are A's, the yellows are B's, and the greens are C's. A's can park in B, C, B can park in C, right? But being able to actually try to predict the occupancy for your type even. So not just knowing that when I go into a lot that it's, got 100 cars, maybe as a C parker I can park there, maybe I can't. But actually being able to say with LPR technology, hey, I can go and I can understand what permit type just came in. And then Spot has this cool algorithm that says, hey, we can predict with some good accuracy what type of spot they've taken based on what's available and what's already taken up. And that's been another game changer for us.
Awesome, Bob. And you mentioned LPR in there. LPR is something that almost every university that we speak with has either implemented or are planning to implement. So I think it would be interesting to hear about what your experience with LPR has been so far and any advice that you give to a university that was looking to implement it.
Yeah, so we've done a few trials with different LPR technologies, and we're really still playing with it, but we're I guess I'll say pretty far along. It allows us to understand how the asset's being utilized, and that's key. You understand how your garage is being utilized based on we have the permit typing scanned or the visitor ticket when they come in and out, but you don't know what's going on in your flat lots as well. And so just being able to tell the turns, the occupancy, the average park time, where they're parking, how their movement goes around campus. I mean, even the movement around campus is helping us define how we would reassign parking for our mobility vision that we're currently working with OSU on a shared mobility vision, and using that data about how people move, whether they're parked once or they're parked and move around, has really been valuable. And that's all coming from the LPR technology.
Right. That's great advice, Bob. So now then let's talk about how you can actually use the occupancy data that you're collecting. One of the key challenges I mentioned earlier is that universities, they typically have multiple disparate systems, like you said, and they each have their own data, but they've got no way of consolidating and actually reporting against this data that's coming from multiple sources. So one of the key reasons when we first started the collaboration between Campus Park and Spot, it was a focus on parking data itself and also the benefits that we can get from that. So what are some of the areas that having this deeper understanding into your parking data is actually beginning to show at Campus Park?
So, I've actually touched on it a little bit already. I kind of jumped ahead on some of the benefits because that's what we are starting to see, right? Being able to see the ecosystem as a whole has been really important, and we've actually made changes. So based again on looking at what time certain lots are busier and what space designations are having to park down too many times and maybe not even finding spaces, we're able to make adjustments in the system, working of course with OSU, and that's been really valuable. Like those insights about the utilization of your asset. You can't manage what you can't measure. And so when we're out there to some degree guessing, and a lot of times it's an educated guess, but we're data people in the entire organization. So we want data, right? So, Sarah will tell me that St. John lot is filling up by 9 o'clock every day. And you know what? I drive by it at 9:05 and it's filled up, but I still need the data, right? So it's really been valuable having it all in one spot. I don't have to be the aggregator, the data cleanser, how do I get it all together? I have a partner that's able to do that for us.
That's great, Bob. So the last question that I'll ask you before we open up the floor for questions then is about your future vision for parking. What does that look like, and how will using these detailed insights, help you to better manage parking as you move towards that future vision?
So, again, I'm on a campus and a medical center, so I have that, strong desire to be customer focused. So provide choice, convenience, predictability, to the consumer is really the thing. I want you to be able to start planning your journey at your kitchen table like you so often do, and know where the best place is to park based on who you are, based on the predicted occupancy at the time of your arrival, and where you're heading. So to me, I want to make it less stressful. And let's go back again, I'll keep saying it, especially in the medical center or the university, the medical centers, you're going there and you're already stressed out. Doesn't matter which one you are. Doctor stressed out about surgery I'm going to give. Patient stressed out about their problem. Visitor stressed out about the patient I'm coming to visit. We need to be able to reduce that stress right off the start, right? I don't want to be adding to that. It's there. I don't need to reduce their stress. I have to not add to it by giving them a bad parking experience and just trying to find parking. So that convenience, predictability, and all. And then we're looking at mobility on campus like everyone else is, right? So OSU is this large campus, and we have parking areas a lot of places, and Sarah taught me early on that that's the best place to put a new building. So we're seeing that starting to happen where they're saying, hey, let's put a new building here and then not consider the parking around it. So, working with the university on a mobility vision has also been, part of it. And that vision is, a lot like, walking areas more on campus, potentially, limiting driving through that campus area, giving the right last mile choices to be able to get to your final destination, just all making it easy, right? So it's just all about ease. So that's where we're going to go, and we're going to get there. I don't know when, but we're going to get there.
Well, thanks again, Sarah and Bob. This is really insightful. We do have some questions from the audience. I know that it's the top of the hour, so for those that have to drop out, know that we will send the recording and the answers to each of these questions as well subsequently. But Bob, we've got a couple of questions coming through for you. The first one is it a lot of work to update the system for every single event on campus?
No, there's event templates. So no, it really is easy. It's tedious because I have 300 of them. So, but updating each and every event is very easy. And again, with templates, the basketball rules are always the basketball rules, and the concert rules are always the same, and the football rules are always the same. So we have templates for that. I do that once, and I just apply the template in time. And then for the other ones, a lot of times, again, they're fairly easy. If there's an event at our student union, it's usually the same parking that's getting taken up. So we create 4 or 5 templates and just have to apply the time range of that template. So no, it's really easy.
Great. And here's another one for you. Does Spot integrate with Campus Park's parking management system to pull user credentials, or is there a separate interface?
No, it is Spot interfacing directly with, we use New Park. And so Spot interfaces with New Park to pull the data and be able to understand how people, what people's credentials are. So.
Great. I might move over to Sarah with this next question. So Sarah, what % of inventory is covered by your occupancy technology? The ones we showed like LPR, ground loop, directional sensors, and so on.
I'm going to let Bob answer that because I have no clue. I know we have it in certain places, but I don't know how the integration works.
Yeah, so it's going to be a combined answer, Sarah. So it's all of our Carmacks, all of our Buckeyes, and all of our garages. So okay. I don't know the size of Buckeye and Carmack off the top of my head. So we'll join this 4,500
spaces out of 22,000 surface. So a small percent. We're working on the surface lots. That is a goal of ours, is to try to get the occupancy, lifetime occupancy. We have about 190 some odd surface lots, all with several different access points. So trying to figure out how we can do that and still afford it is still in the works.
And then one more for you, Sarah, is what are your future plans for Shore Park? You've already put so much into it. What does the sky look like?
Well, I was excited, and I know when our folks were rolling it out to several folks on campus, the possibilities for providing better information for routing event traffic, for construction, things like that. Those are a lot of the disruptors that cause problems. You may know what lot you want to park in, but you may not know how to get there given the construction. We have 8 or 9 tower cranes on the Ohio State University campus right now. So the construction is probably the highest I've ever seen it in all my time with OSU. And getting around campus is tough. We're not there yet, but we have all talked about the potential for this application to be very powerful towards really getting you from your home to your parking space so that you can go on and get where you need to go on campus.
Right, great. Thanks, Sarah. Well, the next one I see is directed at myself. Are there pay-by-phone integrations? Well, I can tell you that there are. We work with each of the major providers, and there's multiple different levels by which we can integrate with them. We can do it at a basic level, which is just simply to reflect the zonage details, the amount of time that you can park and what it costs to park in each separate zone. But then we can even go further down the path with each of them, which is that we can have a click-through that will take you from where you are parking actually over to the solution website that you have on your campus, pre-populate the details. So all you need to then select is how long you want to park for before you click to pay with Apple Pay or your card or whatever it might be. Back over to you, Bob. So when users log into the system to view their permit type and relevant parking areas, do they use the university single sign-on login?
Yes, they do. So You log into our website, Campus Park, and then we pass that that who you are to, well, what your permit type is to Spot in our application. So yeah, and it's all single sign-on with the university.
That's great. Thanks, Bob. And then I think the final question we have is directed at myself again, is does Spot work by integrating with parks/PGS vendors, or mainly uses the data from the client like Ohio State? So what I would say to you is that at Spot, our data platform can connect with any vendor that you might already have. We've never actually run into a vendor that we haven't been able to connect with, and that's due to our open architecture and the way that we've structured our solution in order to work in a bi-directional data exchange format. So we can pull data into our system in order to display it on the interfaces you saw before, but we can also push data out. So that might be things like parking rules. It might be the latest occupancy count that goes to digital signage that you might have on your campus to make sure that everything is showing, consistent numbers, both on your phone and when you actually get to the campus itself. And then we got one more question. Have we integrated a transit AVL solution as well? So I don't have one to show you just yet, but yes, we have. We can reflect bus shuttles. We can reflect where the stops are. We can reflect where they actually are on campus. We can also reflect where there's bike hubs, electric vehicle charging stations, really any form of mobility that you want to reflect within that same interface. We can also do so by connecting with the systems that you have. Look, I know we're 5 or so minutes over time, but I just wanted to, again, thank you, Bob and Sarah, so much for joining us today. I think this has been really insightful for everybody on the session. We know we've thoroughly enjoyed working with you guys and continue to work with you. Look forward to what the future looks like. I just wanted to mention to everybody on the call that we will be at IPMI. Please feel free to come and see us in a couple of weeks at the booth in the expo hall. And I'm also showing my details on the screen just now, so feel free to reach out at any point. We'd love to have a conversation. We love to hear about problems at universities and find innovative ways to solve them. So thank you very much to everybody for joining us today. Can't thank you enough, Bob and Sarah, for everything that you've done for us and you've told us about today. And yeah, thank you everybody else for so much for your time today.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone for joining us. And thank you to the team at Spot. You may now disconnect. Have a great day, everybody.
Thanks, Kenny.